There are beings whose presence seems rare, almost invisible. Souls who do not surround themselves with crowds, who do not seek to shine in the din of the world. We believe they are distant, reserved, sometimes even strange. But if this distance were not a lack, what if it was a form of intelligence, lucidity, or perhaps even inner evolution? In a world where everything pushes people to show themselves, some people choose silence. They do not isolate themselves out of weakness, but by choice. They withdraw, not to flee, but to find themselves. And in this solitude, they develop invisible strengths, a clarity, a depth, and a stability that many will never know. Today, we're going to delve into that often misunderstood space, that of people who have few friends, but whose inner wealth far exceeds social recognition. For there are, in their way of being, signs of a rare wisdom. And understanding this also means learning to understand yourself. 1. Authenticity. There are people who do not seek to multiply themselves in circles, nor to collect connections like trophies of existence. They move forward discreetly, aware that the value of a presence is not measured by the number of faces around them, but by the quality of their own inner light. Their solitude is not an absence, it is a position, a way of inhabiting the world without losing oneself in it. These people, often misunderstood, are not devoid of love or sociability. They have simply become incapable of playing roles in order to belong. Where others adapt to the crowd to be accepted, they choose the truth, even if it means being alone. It is not coldness, it is lucidity. They have understood that authenticity does not easily coexist with the need for approval. They know that being themselves in a world that expects conformity is already a form of spiritual courage. So they move forward without trying to please, without trying to seduce. Their gaze carries the serenity of those who have nothing left to prove. Because once you've tasted the peace of being yourself, other people's masks no longer have the same shine. Their authenticity isn't expressed in words, but in energy. They don't speak the truth, they breathe it. You sense their coherence even before they speak. And that's disturbing sometimes. Because in a world where most hide behind facades, meeting someone who doesn't lie, neither to others nor to themselves, creates a kind of silent shock. But it is precisely this quiet strength that attracts like-minded people. Real people recognize each other. No need for long speeches or promises. A simple presence is enough. These beings do not seek to impress. They inspire naturally. They embody that rare truth, that it is better to walk alone in the light than to dance surrounded by lies. Being authentic also means accepting the dark areas that inhabit you. These people don't pretend to be perfect. They've simply stopped running away from who they are. Their solitude has taught them to look at their wounds, their contradictions, their uncomfortable truths, and instead of judging them, they tame them. It's in this raw honesty that their inner peace is born. They are transparent souls. They don't always shine brightly, but they shine brightly. And in a world saturated with appearances, that light is precious. Those who have recognized it know that it is not an ephemeral radiance, but a stable clarity, the kind you find only when you are no longer afraid to be yourself, even in the face of emptiness. Degree 2. Independence. There is a special strength that arises when you no longer expect anything from anyone. A silent, almost imperceptible power, but one that changes everything. People who have few friends know this strength. They have learned, often through solitude, to no longer depend on the presence of others to feel whole. Their peace no longer depends on a message, validation, or an approving look. They have built an inner space where they are sufficient unto themselves. The independence they demonstrate is not a rejection of the world, but a reconciliation with themselves. They have understood that true freedom is not found in control, but in detachment. When you no longer need someone to be there to feel alive, you discover another kind of existence, one where you are your own pillar. This independence cannot be improvised. It is forged in silence, in the evenings when no one listens to you, in the decisions you make alone because you have no choice. Eventually, you stop fearing solitude. You tame it. You even respect it. It becomes your ally. It teaches you to listen to your inner voice, the one that the noise of the world had long stifled. Others sometimes think you're distancing yourself because you're closed off. In reality, you're distancing yourself because you want to protect yourself. You no longer need to participate in every empty conversation, nor to force connections to fill gaps. You choose distance, not out of indifference, but out of lucidity. You want your energy to be used for what uplifts you, not for what exhausts you. Being independent isn't about being cold. It's about being grounded. You're no longer buffeted by moods, expectations, or judgments. You live by your inner axis. You can love deeply, but without becoming morbidly attached. You can give without forgetting yourself. This emotional maturity frees you to love by choice, not by need. Those who live this way exude a special aura, that of stability. Nothing really seems to disturb them, not because they are insensitive, but because they understand that external chaos does not have to become internal chaos. They know how to refocus, breathe, and observe without reacting. They do not collapse when everything shifts, because they have built their foundation within themselves. In a world where so many seek the support of others to survive, these beings remind us of a simple but rare truth. The best company is that of your own peaceful mind, and when you find it, you are never truly alone again. Degree 3. Selectivity. There is wisdom in not opening one's door to everyone. Those who have few friends are not cold. They are attentive. They know that not all presences are nourishing, that some company tires the soul more than it fills it. So they choose. They observe, feel, and then decide with discernment. This is not mistrust. It is lucidity. They understand that every connection is an exchange of energy, and that whatever you allow into your space ends up transforming you. So they don't confuse kindness with open access. They prefer quality over quantity, depth over distraction. Where many seek quantity, they seek accuracy. This selectivity is often misinterpreted. It is mistaken for arrogance or a fear of contact, but it is actually a form of self-love. When you learn to recognize your own value, you no longer put it in everyone's hands. You no longer seek to be understood by everyone, because you know that very few hear with their hearts. These selective souls don't rush to belong. They wait for connections to align naturally. They don't force the bond. They watch it emerge. They know that true encounters aren't planned. They recognize each other. And when they find a sincere presence, they give themselves to it with loyalty, with a rare intensity, because they know the cost of giving of themselves indiscriminately. Being selective also means knowing how to close the door without guilt. It means understanding that some relationships belong in past chapters. This isn't rejection, it's respect. Respect for your own path. They learned to say no, even to connections that seemed beautiful but resonated falsely. Their intuition became their compass, and they trust it. They don't seek perfection in others, but consistency. They don't judge flaws, but they observe the truth behind gestures. For they know that a word can be kind and yet empty. that a smile can hide a dissonant intention. So they move forward cautiously, without cynicism, but with lucidity. And that's their strength. They don't spread themselves too thin. Their energy is scarce, and they protect it. In their relationships, there's no room for noise, competition, or pretense, only reciprocity and respect. Their circle is small, but true, and in a world where everything can be bought, this authenticity is a spiritual luxury that very few can understand. 4. Introspection. People who have few friends often possess an inner richness that the outside world fails to perceive. Where others fill the silence with chatter, they immerse themselves in it. They know how to listen to what most avoid, their own voice. This habit of being alone has led them to develop a rare faculty, introspection, not as mere intellectual reflection, but as a vivid exploration of their consciousness. They know themselves deeply because they spend time in contact with each other. Every solitude becomes a mirror, every silence a lesson. Where many fear emptiness, they see it as a sacred space. Their thoughts are not escapes, but bridges to self-understanding. They know that the inner world is as vast, as mysterious as the outer world, and that it is there that true knowledge lies. These souls don't try to run away from their emotions. They move through them. When sadness comes, they listen. When anger rises, they observe it. They don't try to suppress what they feel to appear strong. They dive into it to understand. It is this emotional honesty that gives them a depth that many mistake for melancholy. In their moments of silence, they untangle the invisible threads of their experiences. They question their reactions, their wounds, their desires, not to judge themselves, but to purify themselves of what no longer belongs to them. They know that everything that is not understood repeats itself, so they illuminate their dark areas one by one, without fear, without shame. This is how they become beings of rare clarity, not because they no longer fall, but because they know how to get back up with awareness. They look at life with an inward, almost contemplative gaze. Every event, even painful, becomes an opportunity to understand themselves better. They transform their trials into a matter of growth, and in the process, they discover that solitude is not isolation, but an opening to their soul, to their deepest truths, to that part of themselves that the tumult of the world often renders inaudible. Introspection is not an escape from reality, it's another way of inhabiting it. These people live less in appearances and more in essence. Their calm is sometimes disconcerting, but it is the fruit of long inner work. They have tamed their storms, and that is why their silence weighs, why their gaze speaks, why their presence soothes. For we sense in them this quiet certainty. They no longer seek to understand themselves through others. They understand themselves from within. 5. Evolution. There is, in those who have few friends, an evolution that is not always noticed at first glance. A silent transformation shaped by time, trials, and solitude. Where others allow themselves to be distracted by the noise of the world, these souls advance in calm, growing in spaces unseen by the crowd. Their solitude is not a fall, it is an inner ascent, because every silence, every absence, every moment when no one understands them becomes a learning ground for them. They transform what others endure into an opportunity for awakening. Where some see solitude as a lack, they find a demanding but fair master. This master teaches them patience, resilience, clarity of mind. They learn to observe life without getting lost in it, to transform their pain into discernment. This growth doesn't come from a desire to prove anything, but from a need to be at peace. When you spend a lot of time alone, you come to understand what most don't. Stability isn't found in others, but in your ability to know and accept yourself. This knowledge changes you profoundly. You no longer react the way you used to. You no longer seek to understand or explain everything. You let things be because you feel that everything has meaning, even what is beyond you. These evolved beings see life as a process, not a race. They no longer wait for someone to validate them or for a look to elevate them. They move forward with inner conviction. Their maturity is evident in their eyes. There is less impatience, less noise, more space. They no longer seek perfection, but balance. And in this calm, there is a quiet, almost magnetic power. Their solitude has not made them closed hearts, but broadened consciences. They no longer judge others harshly, for they have understood how difficult it is to understand themselves. This understanding becomes compassion, and this compassion becomes wisdom. They are beings who quietly inspire a form of awakening around them. Their simple way of being reminds us that we can live differently, without superficiality, without competition, without pretense. This path to self is endless, but it transforms everything. Those who have taken it no longer seek the light outside, for they have learned to ignite it within themselves. They walk the world as silent witnesses to what consciousness can accomplish when it ceases to be distracted. And in their solitude, they are never alone again. They are connected to something larger, greater, truer than any crowd. If you recognize yourself in these traits, know one thing. Your loneliness is not a curse. It is a mirror that shows you what few people dare to look at. Your authenticity, your clarity, your evolution. You don't need to conform to the crowd to exist. You don't need to be surrounded to be complete. This world needs people like you, lucid, real, selective in their relationships, true to their essence. Souls who do not seek to be admired, but to be aligned. So share this video, not to make it viral, but to remind those who doubt that solitude can be a path to awareness. And if this message spoke to you, subscribe, not to follow, but to continue to grow, to reflect, and to nourish that part of you that is always seeking a little more truth. Your difference is a strength. Don't hide it. Make it a light.